DC makes some changes and additions to its lineup and casts Clayface. Dragons ruled at the box office this weekend, and Nosferatu director turns to Christmas. All that and more coming up right after this. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me on the panel today we have Jay Sisson. What's going on, Jay?
Hey, not too much. Just happy to be here. Another week of Multiverse News.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Happy to be here with you. And Jay Scotty St. Clair. What's happening, Jay Scotty?
Oh, not too much. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Let's do this thing.
Let's do it. And from the 323 with Reed Murphy himself. What's going on, Reed?
Nothing much. Happy to be off the bench, ready to go. Ready to put up points for y'all. Let's do this.
Love it.
Not going to miss a beat.
For three.
You know, yeah, like with the going with the NBA talk, it's like Reed's like, you know, the guy that comes off the bench. Everybody's like, who's that guy? But then he puts up like 18. And everybody's like, oh man, legendary playoff performance.
Exactly. It's just you love me for this game. If I'm here, if I become a regular starter, you're gonna be like, oh, let's get him out of here. But right now, it's glory time.
I'm going to tangent hard right out of the gate, and I'm not the sports guy, but I just had a thought, and I think I learned it this week, but it may have been something I dreamed. Is it true that the 3-point shot in basketball was not a thing until like the 80s or something like that? Like I think I learned it was like post 1979 or something like that.
That is true. Yeah, I don't know the exact year, but yes, your dreams were correct. Yes, I don't know what year that it started, but yeah, 3-point shot wasn't even a thing.
Here's the history lesson. This is Google AI, so caveat.
Okay.
The 3-point shot was
so
first
100% correct.
Tested at the collegiate level in 1945, which was early, but then its widespread adoption came later. The American Basketball Association implemented it in 1967. The NBA not until 1979. So yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
There we go.
The more you know.
It's neat. It's neat. The development of sport is very interesting for sure. I'm not a sports guy. We used to joke on MCU Cast all the time about sports was mentioned. We got to move on. But whenever Reed's here, I feel like there's a little bit extra sports in the show.
Yeah, and I mean,
but I dig it.
You ever come to the 323 network? We have plenty of times where we are just talking. What if John Wick fought the Muppets, or
nice.
anything that we did at Awesome Con and our geeky Family Feud. Yeah, we got plenty for you.
I love that. All right, well, let's turn to our 5-star review that we like to read every week. Sublime Life. Sublime Life. I don't know
Sublime
how.
Life, maybe?
Oh, Sublime Life. Yep, it's Sublime Life. It's got a Y there, and I was just like, Subly. Okay. Sublime Life. On iTunes says, Jay Scotty got there. I was never going to get there. What a fun podcast. I really enjoy listening to this roundtable on my nightly walks. Looking forward to one of the hosts eating another ghost pepper. Stay classy, Multiverse.
It's a great podcast for a walk. It's a good call.
Yeah, absolutely. Not too distracting,
Right.
I'm glad there are people out there that have not forgotten about the ghost pepper, because I haven't forgotten either.
I should probably eat one for the $1 billion Deadpool thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Was it Deadpool or was it Aquaman? I don't know.
No. You ate one for Aquaman, but then I said Deadpool, and then that it wouldn't make $1 billion, and then it did. So, but we never decided. But that should probably just be the bet. The default bet.
Say default bet. Yeah, we'll come up with other bets for other things.
We'll make it happen this summer.
I like it.
I'm a teacher. I'm off for the summer, so like weeknights, if I need to, go into cardiac arrest or whatever, like it's a little bit more doable.
Yeah, for sure.
Severe digestive issues or whatever. That's just a little bit more manageable.
Sorry, I think I narrowly avoided something like that. I think the first time I was on here when I had the hot take that Joker 2 was going to be way better than Deadpool and Wolverine. Get better reviews and a better box office.
I think you were wrong. Yeah,
I was a little bit.
Anybody got ghost peppers at Reed's house?
Not at his house.
I'm ready to end it. That's it.
I think I have some upstairs. I ordered some back whenever the Aquaman thing was happening because I just thought because every box office was like, it's going to make 45 or whatever. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to lose this. And I ordered them and they came to my house and then it made like 40.1, like it was barely over. And so they're still up there somewhere. They're in like one of 4 cabinets, so I could probably find them pretty quick. I don't know if they like go bad or anything, but they've been up there for a little bit.
They just get spicier.
They just get worse.
I honestly, I think we have the same order of ghost peppers. I think we ordered the same thing. I feel they were dried.
That's I think these are too. I think they're like little kind of like seem like they're like freeze dried almost.
I was told that would make them more potent because they're like whatever, but it did not seem.
No, I remember. No, you were strangely resilient to the to the pepper. I mean, you just continued on like your life was completely normal. It was very strange.
I almost don't want you to do it because if it is just the peppers are easy, then I want my legend to live on.
I'm really dramatic. I'll definitely take it harder than you will.
I've been sitting on a bottle of Da Bomb, so I'm just saying, put me in, Coach. And if it needs to become like a Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants kind of situation with hot sauce, we can do that if we need to.
I've got a really bad hot sauce in the next room that I got at a Firehouse Subs yesterday, and I put some on my sub and just a little bit, and I was gone. So let's just all do the lightning round with really hot stuff in our faces. How about that? Anybody down? I'm down.
We'll revisit it once we get to these main stories.
Okay, sounds good. Jay's like, Matt'll forget. All right, let's get to our first story. In a peek behind the curtain, James Gunn shared with Rolling Stone this week that Milly Alcock-led film Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow will now just be called Supergirl. This is similar to July's Superman, which started out with the title Superman Legacy. Gunn shared that he and his team do what he calls premortems, where they attempt to suss out issues with projects prior to release rather than reacting on the back end. The shortening of the titles has come out of these discussions. In the same article, Gunn got candid about the state of Batman in the DCU and the complexities of navigating the character with Matt Reeves' adaptation in consideration or making it his own. Lastly, Gunn announced today that actor Tom Rhys Harries will play Basil Karlo / Clayface in the film set to be released in September of 2026. Is DC shooting and scoring with these new bites?
Man, I really want to start with the Batman discussion because I think that is the most interesting and headline-grabbing thing to me that came out of this Rolling Stone article. And if you go look up the article, it is very, very James Gunn. It's a very, very James Gunn article, just with how he responds to everything, you know. And again, we like him on this podcast, but I think at the same time, we recognize that sometimes his interactions with the media can be a little bit more, you know, he says one thing and then he might change his mind and act like, why would you ever think that I thought this in the first place or whatever? And that was kind of going on with the Batman discussion here. So the interviewer asked several questions about Batman. They started by asking about just Batman in the DCU, and he essentially said something to the effect of, this is the hardest nut to crack that I have right now with the DCU, is how do we bring this character in? And we don't want to just bring it in because it's got to be Batman. We want to make sure that Batman is needed in the DCU and that there's a story for Batman. And he mentions Batman not wanting to be campy and all this type of stuff. So then he goes on to say that he is working with the writer of Batman Brave and the Bold, which he will not name for some reason, which same thing we saw last week with Wonder Woman. And then the interviewer says, okay, so Matt Reeves' Batman, what's going on with that? And he goes, well, it's not canceled. It's still happening. Matt's working on it. It's just kind of slow. He's getting it to me, yada, yada, yada. And then they're like, okay, so just 100% clear, is there any chance that Batman will be with your Superman? And he won't commit to it, but he also won't commit to no. He says, well, it's not a 0% chance. We've talked about it, but it is a small chance. And I think that is what I would say, too, if I was getting ready to launch a universe in July, but it had not been launched yet, and I did not know if it was going to be successful yet, you know? So I just find it hard to believe that Warner Brothers has not begged him to merge these two universes yet. I mean, you have an established Batman. You have a show in the Penguin that won all kinds of awards. You know, you've got this Superman movie coming out. These are the two most popular characters in DC. Let's put them together. You know, like I'm sure that's what's come out of the mouth of David Zaslav to James Gunn. But again, Superman has to be a success. Matt Reeves has to be on board. There's a lot of it's such a weirdly unique situation. So it's like option A, we merge these two universes together, which business-wise makes the most sense. But then option B is we have two Batmans, and we've got a James Gunn-led Batman, and we've got a Matt Reeves-led Batman, which creatively, I guess, for each individual makes sense, but business-wise does not make sense. It's such a strange and unique position to be in because Batman is the most popular character from DC, and they're in this weird no man's land about where to place him and if to spring him up in a new fashion in the DCU alongside a Robert Pattinson Batman or to merge them together. It's fascinating, and I think if Superman is a rousing success in July, which I think we all think it will be, then I think that conversation probably gets a little bit more, all right, let's talk about it seriously and see what that would look like. I think we all have opinions on if that would work or not. I mean, the Pattinson Batman and the Corn Sweat Superman, if those two characters can coexist, I mean, there's, I can see both sides on that, but I just think that's a really fascinating place for this very important character to be in.
To piggyback off the Batman stuff, I do think it's inherently interesting, and I think I've had this thought in passing, but I don't think that I've ever brought it up on a cast. But I can't help but look at the state of the DCU as it's preparing to launch. It's going to have a Superman movie that launches the universe that's less than a month away, and to your point, we've got this like lingering Batman element, and that's kind of the exact same situation Zack Snyder found himself after 2013's Man of Steel, because we just came off the heels of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy, where I'm sure Warner Brothers, I think there were conversations with Nolan. Like I think Nolan and Jonathan Nolan helped develop, the Man of Steel. So there was a hope that they might be able to take Nolan's Batman and retrofit him in there, but it never happened. So I just can't help but, notice the parallels there. But to go back to the Superman of it all, because again, that's what I find so fascinating about this whole situation. Here we are a month away from the Superman film. And the way they have decided to market this thing, it's not on the shoulders of our Superman, David Corenswet. Like, I don't think, the average person knows David Corenswet's name at all. They are, putting all of this on James Gunn. So, like you said, Jay, this was a very James Gunn interview from top to bottom. And I kind of came away with the takeaway, like, if you're like us and you eat up every little thing, every little detail that's put out there, there's probably a lot that you can take away from this interview and this article. But by and large, I think it was another instance of him just saying a lot without really saying anything definitive. He's like putting a lot of like maybes and, platitudes out there. Like maybe it will go this way, maybe it will go that way. Again, like you're saying, he's not telling us who these writers are. We suspect very strongly that he is probably the writer on multiple, at least the first drafts or treatments of, Wonder Woman, probably Batman here, so on and so forth. But to address Supergirl and the shortening of the title here, I get it. I'm probably alone on this one, but I generally do prefer the subtitles because, like, when it's just like, especially when you get into sequels and having to number them and whatnot, I just like the uniqueness of having a subtitle that tells you a little bit about the story. But in terms of launching a new universe and getting people on board with new characters and everything like that, it makes sense. You want to keep the title short. And with Supergirl, we haven't had another Supergirl film that I'm aware of. There was one in the 70s, but I think that was a TV movie. So I don't think you necessarily need to have like, the year in brackets next to the title, like you're going to have with the Superman 2025. But on that same note, when Gunn was talking about Batman and, is it going to be Pattinson? Is it going to be the Brave and the Bold? The interviewer did ask him, is it still called Brave and the Bold? And he said, at this point in time, yes. And I just kind of bristled at that a little bit. I'm like, okay, Batman.
Until they
exactly. So I'm like, if it's not going to be called Brave and the Bold, just call it Untitled Batman. Like, don't set up an expectation or get me, in love with Brave and the Bold just to pull that away. So
it's actually called The Batman, and it came out a few years ago.
That's right. That's right. And I'll touch on Clayface just a little bit here. Unfortunately, there's not a ton to say. We talked about some of the, the potential candidates a couple weeks ago. This guy, Tom Rhys Harries, I'm not familiar with him, but he does look in keeping with some of those names that were bandied about. So I trust them that they got a talented guy. But I don't know if anybody's, as much of an 80s music head as I was. But as soon as I saw the guy, I was like, if they ever make a Pet Shop Boys biopic, they got to get that guy. Because he's spitting image of the guy, West End Girls. West End Girl. Yeah, just me.
You're out on this limb alone. I'm sorry. My favorite thing in this interview with Gunn was when I know he means it. He means well when he says this, but I feel like this is such a backhanded thing. He's like, there are rumors the Batman 2 is canceled. He's like, it's not canceled. We don't have a script. Matt's slow. Let him take his time. Let him do his thing.
That is a direct quote.
That is a direct quote. Matt's slow, which I've heard my whole life. Let him take his time. Let him do his thing. God, people are so mean. Let him do his thing, man. Which I know he's being defensive of the guy, but like that is just directly like putting it all on Matt's shoulders at the same time. He's like, Matt's slow at this. Let him do it. Like, and I think he's right. Like, the tricky thing about these universes, like, he's right. Artists need the time to make their art. If you rush things, and not all artists work at the same speed. One of the reasons certain directors work really well in this sort of franchise system, like the Russos work really well, because they talked about it, talking about way back when they were on Arrested Development. One of the reasons they were go-to directors for that is because the show was really complicated and they always got it in time under budget. Like, they're just those guys who can come in and do the thing. And the same thing on Community. They could come in and do really impressive things in time, under budget, and in the time restraints. And like, to fit in these franchises and for one movie to come in the right time after the other movie, so they sandwich and make and build a universe in the right order so that everything's rolled out correctly, takes that kind of a guy. And it sounds like Matt Reeves is not that guy. And so it's almost like you need someone else to push him or something. And that's not what James Gunn is interested in doing. He wants to let his creators create, and that's great. But I don't think that bringing Matt Reeves' Batman in, if we're going to have Batman movies, or we'll end up with a similar situation. You were talking about the DC EU, Jay Scotty with the Batman situation, but it's also the whole like Superman situation. Like, I don't want to get the Batman movie and then have like a ton of universe in between and never get another Batman movie, just like they did with the Man of Steel. It's like, we got a Man of Steel movie and then tons of crossover movies, and we never got a second real Superman movie. So like, yeah, I don't think, it doesn't sound like Matt Reeves is the guy for that. Matt Reeves is great at what he's doing, but it doesn't sound like he's the guy for this particular task. So, and I don't really want them to take his universe away from him. So yeah, I think it's likely that we're going to need another Batman. We're going to need a faster Batman, to quote Jaws.
I mean, like, I love what Matt Reeves is creating with his own, his own corner universe. And if you were to be able to integrate it into this new wider DC universe, that would be really cool, because we're seeing this bright landscape, this kind of world of its own, kind of futuristic metropolis with James Gunn's Superman. And my ideal, if you're going to try to make a competing universe, franchise of films here, is, challenge yourself when you have to wind up doing Justice League or some type of crossover where you're going to have these different styles and these different looks and stuff. So being able to try and see Matt Reeves' Batman interact with this Superman and whatever the lanterns are going to be would be really cool. But like you all have said, I don't really see Matt Reeves fitting that, and especially at the pace that they're going with to get anything out. So, and if I don't know if you all watched Creature Commandos.
Did we watch Creature Commandos? Who are you talking to?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what network I was on. Where they sort of established already that there's a Batman in this universe.
Yeah.
That does not look like Pattinson's Batman in terms of just thickness. So
that boy was thick.
He was thick, man. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. But otherwise, like, I like that Gunn is prioritizing quality over quantity here, and has even voiced in that interview about the Disney mandate to increase Marvel's output for Disney Plus, and on how many movies and how many shows needed to be released a year, and he agreed ultimately with what Bob Iger had said previously, is that it killed it, that it really hurt the product to do that, and he doesn't want to have that kind of mandate with his DC Studios film. So I think it's in good hands there, and I'm not going to trust every movie that's announced, just like Scotty was saying, The Brave and the Bold, I got very excited when I heard that title, and to, be able to see that. And if we're already changing titles and things could get changed here and there, I was like, okay, I'll wait for the actual production to begin on these things. So seeing Clayface actually get a casting done and it's really starting to move, that gets me excited, and I'm very curious what they do with that character. You could do a lot of fun, cool things in whatever setting they want to do. I don't know who this actor is as well. I'm not very versed in there. I know he beat out like George McKay, who was excellent in 1917 and a couple other films, and Jack O'Connell, who, if anybody Sinners.
We heard Tale of a Party.
Oh my gosh, he's awesome. So
yeah,
if this dude beat both of them out, had to be a hell of an audition. And I'm very curious to see what he does with the character. I've got some faith in this.
Gunn's, he's very big on finished scripts. I mean, that was a big talking point in this interview too, is that he will not send anything into production unless it has a finished script, which, he took some shots at some of the other franchises, as saying, like, especially he named Marvel as saying, like, a lot of these productions go into production, they don't have their scripts finished, then they end up kind of running into an issue. And so he's big on that. I mean, we'll see how that goes as the years go on, but at least as it stands right now, I think it can kind of explain why our first few projects for the DCU might be, some would say, obscure characters, right? Like, instead of the Batman movie and then a Superman movie and then a Wonder Woman movie and then a Flash movie or whatever, it's like Clayface and Swamp Thing and Peacemaker,
Sergeant
Creature
Rock,
Commandos, right? Exactly. Like Sergeant Rock's the perfect example of how that's going. So I think at the end of the day, it is that issue of these two worlds that are built, and I'm with you guys on the pacing thing of Reeves. That's where I'm hung up on. I can creatively, I see how you can put these things together. I don't think it's crazy to put the Batman world and the Superman world together. The Avengers movies are perfect templates for that. Like, looking at what the Russos did with example for, like, a character of Thor and the character of the Guardians of the Galaxy and the character of Captain America and these are all very different films on their own. Like, you watch The Winter Soldier, you watch Guardians 2, you watch Thor, you try to put those characters together, they are stylistically very different. But the Russos kind of, they put up a pretty good template of, like, being able to make these characters mesh. You're flipping between scenes where the Guardian ship is in the sky and it's playing, some type of, like, song that James Gunn would put in a movie with it, and then it flips back to something more dramatic over here because we're in Wakanda or what. It's like you can do it. It's just, can you get Reeves on board with, like, developing the character outside of the crossovers, not 5-6 years in between movies or whatever? Is Robert Pattinson on board for that? Is Colin Farrell on board for that? Like, all of these other people that have been sold a bill of a Batman universe being folded into a wider universe. Like, it's an interesting conversation here. I do want to mention, like, on the side, we were kind of talking about, like, Scotty, I think you said, like, a lot of the marketing has been James Gunn, not David Cornsweet. Did you see the Entertainment Weekly photo that was featuring a Superman promotion? It's hysterical. It's hysterical. Okay, so here's what happens, because Entertainment Weekly, they have, like, photos that are videos. You watch them on Instagram or whatever, and it's kind of like it's a photo, but it's like a live photo kind of. So in it, you've got David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan. They're in a phone booth. Superman, right? They're kind of like they've got a Daily Planet paper, and they're kind of like she's like kind of gazing into his eyes and all that type of stuff. It's very good marketing. Okay, I'm not even joking. It zooms out. There's another phone booth. There's a paper of Daily Planet. Puts it down. It's James Gunn.
Of course.
It's like, who's the real star here, man? You got Superman and Lois Lane over here for a Superman movie. Like, why do we got James Gunn over here? this other
I
phone
haven't
booth.
seen that. I guess I've been paying attention to the marketing, but I think that's a terrible idea. Like, that's just terrible idea for marketing. We all know who James Gunn is, and we would recognize him on the street. But, like, the people they need to reach for this movie don't know who James Gunn is, like the larger audience. And like you could, if you can say like the guy who directed Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe, because a lot of people do love those movies, you know. But I just do not see his face being a selling point, except for to, you know, people who love this stuff enough that they're going to go anyway. It's weird, and already know that he has taken over DC. I think that it's a weird thing to try to pull in the normies with that kind of marketing.
Well, that all kind of brings to mind the fact that this interview was done with the Rolling Stone. Like, Gunn is very choosy about which trades he decides to do interviews with. Like, this isn't with Variety, this isn't with Deadline or the Hollywood Reporter, where, you know, not to slag on the Rolling Stone at all, but they cover a lot of stuff. Whereas I think the interviewers for some of these other trades might be a little more in the know. Like, if you look at these questions, like, this seems like a person that, you know, they got assigned this interview, but they're not really like have the insider knowledge that people like us with our finger on the pulse would have, or some of these other interviewers. And I suspect had this been with, you know, another trade or another interviewer, you might have gotten a little more pushback on some of these answers I'm saying that are just like not all that substantial and not super committal or definitive. Like, you probably would have been like, well, what does that mean? Like, I'll go back to the comment about Matt Reeves being slow, and give the creative their time and process and stuff like that. But we've never seen Matt Reeves be a slow filmmaker before. Look what he did with the Planet of the Apes. He hopped on with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. 3 years later, he completed that trilogy. So we know he's dealing with personal things. We're not here to speculate about that, but it just does feel a little disingenuous coming from James Gunn, where it's just like, Matt Reeves is slow, people are mean. Well, you know, people aren't really being, well, maybe some people are being mean, but the reality is like, again, Variety, the Hollywood Reporter, they're not the ones out here saying the Batman 2 is canceled. It's the fact that you're chronically online and paying too much attention to these things and have to comment on every little thing.
Dare I invoke the Sonyverse? You know, we're making the Penguin, we're making Clayface. You know, what's the next Batman villain that's going to get a movie? You know, with no Batman, we got to get a Batman. There is a Deathstroke and a Bane movie. Yeah. If it's still happening.
It's true. You gotta get the Joker. Yeah. They're doing a lot of villain movies. It's a balance. It's all a balance. The idea that like a movie being made too fast or too slow, like both are bad. Like, you know, you can't. You know, there is something to be said for these movies needing to maintain the hype, and the longer we are without a sequel to the Batman, it's going to feel that much like the distant past, and like it's going to feel that way to us. If they said right now that they were getting one next year, I would feel like it's been too long, and like the dirty casuals that liked the Batman and they're like, oh, they're making a sequel to that? Like, that was so long ago. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to feel really old soon. And that's just how the marketing works these days. And actors age, and like the way that you want to make these movies, you got to capitalize on what you have while you have it. Not to mention like keeping all these people under contract and all that kind of stuff. There's just all kinds of tricky things to manage. And that's why, you know, what Marvel was able to do all those years ago in building the universe was so impressive. And James Gunn is now dancing on that same head of a pin, trying to make all this happen.
Will he do it? Only time will tell.
Scotty is our watcher over there.
Join me as we ponder, what will James Gunn do next?
All right, well, let's move on to our next story. Live action remakes continue to rule the box office, with this weekend's How to Train Your Dragon capturing the top spot, opening to a global $197 million. A24's romantic comedy Materialists, starring Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal, opened to a modest $11 million domestically, but goes down in studio history as A24's third highest debut at the box office. Next weekend, Sony gives us 28 Years Later, and Pixar releases Elio. Will either of them be able to tame that dragon?
Once again, only time will tell. We shall see. If you weren't aware, we are in the thick of the summer blockbuster box office season here. And I did go see How to Train Your Dragon this weekend, the live action remake here. And I feel like I'm eating my words here a little bit. We've been talking a lot of crap about live action remakes here for the like duration of this show, I feel like. But the last two that I've gone to see now, I have to be, I have to look at the whole picture here, because I saw Snow White, which was one of the worst I'd seen. But then to follow that up with Lilo and Stitch, which again, I think is really good, really moving, probably one of their best live action remakes to date. And then you have DreamWorks here with their very first live action remake. And again, How to Train Your Dragon is a film that I didn't have a lot of intimate familiarity with. It came out when I was already an adult, but I've seen it like once or twice, and I appreciated it for what it was. But I think this is one of the few instances where you can take a movie and basically do pretty much a shot for shot remake and not have it feel like a waste of time or resources, because this is just a world and environment and subject matter that just lends itself to live action. Like the animated film was good. I will probably still stay in the camp that original film is probably superior in terms of its ability to deliver the message and the feels and just have really endearing characters with the designs, especially of the dragons. But this really worked for me. Again, I did not rewatch the original in preparation for this one, but I am not surprised to see that it did this well. And my real takeaway is like, it did 197 million worldwide, but I think if you look at the domestic, that puts it somewhere in the neighborhood of 80. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but that means it did substantially better than something like Thunderbolts. And I think it just goes to show, we've talked about it so much on this show, like, superheroes and Marvel are our bread and butter, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But I do think it just speaks to what do general audiences, what's going to be the next Barbenheimer or what have you. And I think that just is indicative that the Deadpool and Wolverines are going to be the exceptions rather than the rules. And I think that's been a big part of the conversation going forward, talking about the aftermath of Thunderbolts. Yes, it was critically very well received. The studio was happy with it. You had Bob Iger going out there singing its praises, saying like, these are the types of movies we're going to do going forward. But it ultimately lost a lot of money. So that's enough on that. To touch on the Materialist, I got to lose the there's no the there. I did not see it, but the word of mouth has encouraged me. This was one that I was very precarious about with, Celine's song coming off of Past Lives. I really wanted to be good for. Of course, I'm rooting for Pedro and Chris there, but oof, we had Dakota Johnson in the mix, and I was concerned. I'm still concerned, but the word of mouth does seem to be strong enough that I will check it out. So yeah, it's a good time to be a fan of the movies, and looking forward to 28 years later and Elio. But the one I'm really excited for is Megan 2.0. We got to wait till June 27th for that one, but I'm going to be talking about that.
Yeah, the How to Train Your Dragon thing. You're right about it. Our bread and butter here is the superhero genre, and that's what we've been talking about on this network since the beginning. So we touch on it a lot, but we've also on this show talked forever about family movies. Just have this well of money making that. The impressive thing about a Deadpool and Wolverine is it's rated R, so they're not taking 7 kids to that when they go see it. It's like that's just a lot of adults making it into theater, and obviously some kids and teenagers are going to see those rated R movies too. But like adults have to go. It's not a family movie. The thing about the family movies is you go and it's often two parents and all these kids going, and that's just those tickets are just pricey. But I was actually shocked in the story that this is A24's third highest opening. Does anybody have the top 2 off the top of their head?
Warfare's 1.
Warfare?
Was Civil War?
Maybe that's what I meant to say.
Is that what okay?
Something
yeah,
about war. I don't know.
I just was surprised. I feel like every movie that I want to see is A24 or Marvel.
Civil War is 1. I think Hereditary might be 2.
Okay.
Oh, it'd be interesting if Hereditary was.
Unless this is well, wait. What's Everything Everywhere All at Once? That's got to be one of them too.
That was definitely one of their highest grossers, but as far as openings, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if it had a big opening. I know where I was the only person in the theater going to see it.
I think right now it's Civil War and Hereditary. I think
that's what I'm seeing too.
Civil War earned 25.7 million. Hereditary earned 13.5.
Okay.
And that was previously the highest opening for A24.
Gotcha. That's really shocking to me because I feel like they promote the heck out of these movies. I feel like I see their their trailers everywhere. Maybe I'm just the target demographic, but I'm just seeing A24 trailers everywhere I go. And I see them a lot too. I'll see like, a lot leading up to a release. So I guess I just thought they were making the big bucks these days, but 11 million is just not that much for an opening.
And I'm hoping, like Scotty was saying, like the word of mouth for it. I was not particularly excited about this movie, and I don't want to do it unfairly to Dakota Johnson. But if I see, like, I don't get it necessarily with Dakota Johnson, but I do. I love Pedro Pascal. I love Chris Evans, and seeing Chris Evans in these types of roles. So hearing that the film is, does live up. It might not exactly be Past Lives, but it's, up there. That gets me excited to see it. I did go to see How to Train Your Dragon over the weekend, and I'm somebody, I didn't see the animated one up until about like 2 months ago. I saw the original about 2 months ago, so I was pretty fresh for it, and I've been the same. I'm not crazy about these live action remakes, and I have a weird feeling where, like, if it's shot for shot, then I argue what's the point outside of just, making money and selling to a new generation. But if they deviate too much, then I get upset. And I was like, well, why didn't you just stick to what worked? So I can't be satisfied, but I was satisfied by this movie. And I did really enjoy it. It felt very cinematic in a lot of different parts, and I think that that's where live action lent well to this story, and it makes me excited to see more of it, to see more of this world, to see when I'm reading that part 2, they might branch out a little bit more from just the animated movie and dive a little bit more into the books and to some of the other stories and characters that are provided there. So that could be very exciting for it. As whether anything can take it out this weekend, I don't know. Elio is something like Pixar has been so fickle lately, where like we're getting these great stories, but it's also felt like there's been, up until the last week, next to no promotion for Elio, or it's just not hitting my feeds.
Yeah.
So I would love for it to be a success if it is actually good, and I'm seeing the early reviews have popped out, and it's debuted at 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's looking like it's a great, a pretty good story, a pretty cool original story, and I would love for any original Pixar film to become a hit and remind them, hey, we can keep doing this, especially with the announcement recently of their, they have a Gato coming out, or, it's going to be a hand-painted film for Pixar. So like I get excited when they do original stuff and tap into the creativity, but this one I don't know if it's going to hit like that. And 28 years later could be. I haven't seen any of the original films, so maybe I'm just sitting from a different perspective here, but I don't see it being able to knock off How to Train Your Dragon this particular weekend. After that, though, I'm very excited for F1. I don't know what it's not. Sure. It's not just the sports nerd in me, but I am a Brad Pitt nerd. I love Brad Pitt. I love what Joseph Kosinski, the director, did with Top Gun Maverick, and it looks like a really awesome, like, cinematic time. And might be my first 40X treatment. Might be my first 40X film. I'm ready to get sick in that process. I already heard it was really fun with How to Train Your Dragon. These whatever they did for 40. So excited for that. I think that's when we'll finally see things cool off.
Yeah, we got Jurassic World Rebirth right around the corner. I would say we're probably in the How to Train Your Dragon stretch, and then that will be the thing that will ultimately unseat it when we get to that point. Pixar is in such a weird spot. Like, Elio, I think, will probably do what Elemental did, which is that Elemental was really well received from a critical standpoint. Like, people really liked it. And I actually watched it on Disney Plus, which is the problem that I'm about to say. But I watched it on Disney Plus, and I thought it was really great. Like, I really liked it. I also watched Pixar's Disney Plus show last week called Win or Lose. It is good. It is really well written. It takes all these different perspectives of characters. The characters are really well written, and the animation's beautiful. Like, I would highly recommend that. And it's like, so they've still got it. I mean, they can make great stuff, but they're in this weird spot where it's almost like if it's a new Pixar property, people won't go see it in theaters. They'll wait for Disney Plus. But if it's an established Pixar property, like in the lightning round, we're going to talk about Toy Story 5. Toy Story 5 will do amazing at the box office. Like, it will blow up. Like, people will go see it like crazy whenever it happens. It'd be the same if you did an Elemental 2, or if you did if Elio is well received on Disney Plus and you did an Elio 2. You know, like, people are going to come out for the sequels for Pixar. But I don't think we've seen evidence yet that in our post-COVID, kind of post-streaming, post-Disney Plus world, that people will go see original Pixar first launch movies in theaters yet. We just haven't seen that. Ever since Soul, which, you know, Soul was thrown straight on Disney Plus, ever since then, it's just they have not had a lot of success at the box office. Now they have huge success on Disney Plus, but it's just it does not seem
Inside
that
Out 2
Inside Out 2
well
is
summer.
Right, but that was a 2, right? I mean, that was a sequel.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah, so it's like if you can, and that's the thing. I mean, so if you can establish the thing, and then you put the sequel out, like, people will follow up and they'll go for the sequel for Pixar. So there's still a lot of interest in it, but I'm afraid that movie's going to struggle a little bit, like whenever it comes to the buy, especially being up against How to Train Your Dragon, and a lot of families are going out and seeing that, and families saw, you know, it's just there's been a lot of these kind of like other movies that families have gone out and seen. I just don't know if they've got it in them to go out and shell out another family round of tickets for a Pixar movie that they can see on Disney Plus by this fall, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just all set up for the live action remake of Elio in like 5 years.
Right.
2033.
We'll do the live action remake.
You cited Elemental as, like, you know, it could potentially, you know, perform similarly to that. And I won't call that best case scenario, but I do think that would be generous. I'm just not, I hear the good reviews for this thing, but I think from a marketing perspective and like an aesthetic perspective, it's reminding me a lot of Strange World, which was not Pixar, it was Disney Animation. But I think if you look at them side by side, there are some similarities there. And Strange World did terribly. I think it was in theaters for like 2 weeks before they ripped it from theaters and put it on Disney Plus. So hopefully that's not the case with Elio there. But before we move on entirely, I did have to, you know, give a disclaimer, a PSA for How to Train Your Dragon. It does have a post-credit scene. One of the most pointless post-credit scenes I've ever experienced in my life. I was frustrated by the end of that one. Like, worse than Homecoming.
I saw that after I saw the movie. Like, I saw that popped up on Facebook or something, and I thought I was being trolled. That was an actual thing. So
it was
it's funny.
Pointless.
Hey, listen, if I'm in the theater with my kids, we're not sitting through the credits, all right? Just get out of here with that. We're not doing it. If we made it through a whole movie, get out of here with post-credit scenes.
Cool, you're ahead.
The algorithm has, I guess, pegged me for being a Dakota Johnson Materialists promotional watcher, and so I'm getting a lot of the promotional material for like the interviews and stuff where she's with Chris Evans and she's with Pedro and all this. And it's such a fascinating dynamic because it seems like she cannot stand to be there. It seems like Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal love each other. I think Pedro's kind of like that with everybody. They love each other. Like they have like massive bromance, but she's just kind of in the middle and seems like she's really not enjoying herself very much. She's giving a lot of just like quick, and man, her publicist must be very good and very on it, because in every single interview, they have not uttered the words Madam Web. Not a single interviewer has uttered the words Madam Web. I mean, so I'm sure her publicist has been like, if you bring up Madam Web, you'll never work in this town again.
My favorite thing has been, I haven't even watched the episode yet, but I saw a little excerpt from the Hot Ones she did, where Sean Evans says something to the effect, he's like, I'm just like you. I'm not a superhero. Like, this heat affects me just like it does you. And then it turns to Dakota Johnson. She looks right at the camera and says, I'm not a superhero either. Tried. Failed.
She did make headlines for one little thing where she kind of was like, well, the industry's being run by people who aren't creative, and then it's like crushes the, and you know what she was talking about when she was saying that. But yeah, impressive work by Dakota Johnson's publicist.
All right, moving on to our next story. Nosferatu director Robert Eggers is tackling the classic Charles Dickens story, A Christmas Carol. Eggers is on record as never wanting to make a film set in the modern age, and the ghost story that is A Christmas Carol seems right up his alley. Though unconfirmed, Willem Dafoe is likely set to play the main character of Ebenezer Scrooge, as Dafoe has been in 3 of Eggers' films. Who's ready for a candlelit adventure for the holidays?
I'm ready. This is, I can't think of a project better for Eggers or somebody better to do a new adaptation of A Christmas Carol. I don't see it being a very jolly kind of adaptation. It's not going to reach the Muppets heights for a Christmas Carol necessarily. Like it said, it's unconfirmed, but he definitely really wants Willem Dafoe for the part of Ebenezer Scrooge, and that would just be brilliant. I think Dafoe would ham it up. He would love that role. He would kill it in that role. I could see him in any of the roles. They could do like the Jim Carrey kind of thing. Have Willem Dafoe play Tiny Tim. Have him play the ghost. Have him do it all. This is like, it's perfect. From the same guy who did The Lighthouse, who did Witch, Northman, Nosferatu. Like, it's going to be a really great pairing. I'm very impressed by Eggers' output, because I believe he's supposed to start this after he does, I think we talked about this the last time I was on there, Werewolf, or whatever, Werewolf,
right. Yeah.
that he's going to be doing next. So as soon as he gets that done, we'll move into Christmas Carol, and I'll be looking forward to it as another, maybe we'll start doing a Robert Eggers December holiday tradition. Ooh. Just do, Christmas with Robert Eggers. That'd be amazing. Yeah. So, I'm very excited for this. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm excited to see what more of the casting looks like, too. And it's just the way he'll be able to capture the gothic horror of some parts of that story, the interactions with some of these ghosts, especially the ghost of the future. Like, it will be haunting. It should be able to nail all the right parts. I don't see him deviating too much from the actual story point. So I'm very excited for this. This would be a great project for both of them.
Maybe it is the Muppets thing, but I don't think I've really thought about A Christmas Carol as a horror story until I saw this headline, and then was like, wait, yeah, it is a ghost story. It is a story about conviction. It is a story about dark themes. It is started kind of thinking about putting those eggs into those baskets and kind of putting that puzzle piece together. And, Eggers, his films are a certain vibe. They're a certain flavor. It's he's got a very stylistically, he has a very particular style in how he makes his movies. And I think this fits. This makes total sense with what we know from him. And I think there was a lot of excitement online whenever this was announced for that reason, is people who really dug, Nosferatu, and really dug like the Lighthouse and these types of Robert Eggers type style films. This makes a lot of sense. It did say in the write-up that he is particularly writing the part for Willem Dafoe. It's not a maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. It's like, he's my guy. I'm going to get him, So I think you can almost put that one down in pen that'll happen. But yeah, really interesting concept. And again, I like the idea that it's challenged what I thought A Christmas Carol is whenever I think about that story.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I actually haven't seen any of Eggers' work yet, so I can't really say much. I've seen some of the promotional material, so I understand the vibe, and just hearing someone taking on more of a serious take on this story, because I do think that it has a history of that, but it has been sort of, because it's a Christmas story, it has been made into many happy-go-lucky varietals over the years. But I think the original stories, it has some real darkness to it that could be mined. And yeah, I dig this idea.
I'm something of a Scrooge myself. Jay, the journey that you went on thinking about A Christmas Carol and coming to the realization that it's a ghost story is the same journey that I went on, but years ago. And I can't help but think of that Christmas song, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, where they have the line like, there'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. And I was like, ghost stories? Who tells ghost stories at Christmas? Like, what is that all about? And sure enough, there are a number of, I think we've even talked about it on this show, like lots of Christmas movies, even like the Home Alones, have like that tinge of like a little bit of like horror and scariness. And while this is like, the happiest time of the year and the merriest time of year, the fact that it is set during the coldest, darkest time of the year as well is definitely a through line. So like everyone has said, Eggers, like if you want a period piece and you want it to be painstakingly accurate, he's your guy. So we've had a lot of adaptations for A Christmas Carol, but I do think that this one will stand out as being very unique and, potentially definitive. I don't know about definitive. He'll probably make it a little bit more scary than the average moviegoer wants, but I can't help but think, last Christmas, I did spend Christmas morning in the theater watching Nosferatu, and that was a great movie, very, very well made. But my takeaway ever since I saw it was that the final third really just kind of, it slowed to like a snail's pace. So knowing this story, I don't have that same fear or expectation. I think it's a story that ramps up to a pretty exciting climax there. But Bill Skarsgård has got to be somebody. I'm thinking probably the Ghost of Christmas Past, given the fact that Scrooge is a young man when he interacts with that person. I can see Bill Skarsgård in the chains and the wrapping already. Let's make it happen.
Love it. All right, well, we're going to be right back with more stories. Coming up in our lightning round, Spaceballs returns, Strange New Worlds is renewed/canceled, Pixar looks to future projects, yes, more Hunger Games casting for Matt to try to say out loud, and Will Smith had opportunities he turned down, plus much more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Multiverse News. We have a thing called a Patreon. That's how this show is supported, by listeners like you who give us a little bit of money and we make the show. So if you would like to join us and participate in such a thing, patreon.com/multiverse newscast. And we work really hard to bring you guys this every week, and your support is very, very appreciated. So it's only $4 a month. You get ad-free access to the episodes, and you get access to the live recordings after we take them off of YouTube, if you want to watch us do all the silly things in between, all the mistakes and such, and stuff like that. We do special episodes, and you get cheaper access to some of our merch and all those sorts of things. So if you like the show, go support it. Patreon.com/multiverse newscast.
Toss a coin to your Witcher, O Valley of Plenty.
Let's shout out our patron of the week. That is Catherine Ray. Catherine Ray, thank you so much for your support. You rock. Let's move to our Spotify poll for this week. Do you prefer Wicked's first or second act? I had mentioned on a different cast we did. I think it was the Wicked coverage that I've heard that people don't like the second act as much as the first, and so I think that's what spurred this on. Even though it wasn't.
We were talking about the trailer for Wicked for Good last week. So yeah, this is kind of
yeah. And Haley mentioned it, and they all said I was wrong, but. the poll, okay, so I don't know yet, says 64.6%. That's because a lot of people haven't seen it. 14% said don't make me choose, but then from the people that chose, 14.6 said they liked Act 1 and 6.3% said they liked Act 2. So I think my initial feelings were justified, and Haley and Ashley are wrong.
Maybe you just made a lot of shadow accounts and you voted multiple times.
I didn't even know this was the question until I opened this document. Thank you.
I have to say, don't come for me in the comments because I liked Wicked, but I thought it was a little slow until she started defying gravity at the end. I mean, and I was like, all right, now this thing's off to the races a little bit. And so I kind of expected, I have not seen the Broadway performance, but I kind of expected in Act 2 it would sort of kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. Now, I will say, as a disclaimer, I was watching Wicked at home. My children were present, and they were not paying a lot of attention and being very distracting. So, maybe if I was watching it by myself, I would have a different opinion.
Indeed.
So it was not the perfect viewing environment.
I'm firmly in the I don't know yet camp, but I am open to finding out. Can't wait to find out.
I'm very excited to find out.
Yeah, I have seen it live, but I do not remember the second act at all. And so when I heard that was the case from friends, I was like, that makes sense. I have no memory of what happens after what's in the movie. So
you and Ken have that in common.
Oh yeah, that's right.
After saying he blacked out for the second half.
That's right. I really wanted to do welcome back to Multiverse News. That run and practice it and be ready to do that. But
save it for Wicked Week.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit your Ariana notes.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's the Elphaba
Cynthia
actress.
Erivo.
Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah, Cynthia Erivo.
She was in that Target commercial, and she'd be walking around the aisle and she'd just scream out the noise. Ah! Now, anytime I'm in Target, I just walk through an aisle. I just want to. It's a weird vocal cue. I just want to go. I just want to scream that out.
That's just going to be Target's going to be full of people singing that now. I like it. All right. Well, we're going to turn to our lightning round. This is where I'm going to read a story, and we each are going to shout out our names if we would like to claim that story. And whoever says their name first, it's like a buzzer. They get to respond to that story. And then once per lightning round, we each get one rebuttal. So here we go. Tommy Ricola will return to direct Violent Night 2, the sequel to the Christmas-themed action movie released in 2022. Sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. David Harbour, who starred in the first film, will also return. The sequel is currently dated for December 4th, 2026. Matt, I loved the first one. I loved it, and I really want to see the second one. As soon as I saw it's just such an obvious title. Violent Night, come on.
I can't believe it hadn't been done. Like, when I saw that was the title, I was like, there's no way no one's done that before.
There's no way this isn't already a horror movie about Christmas. Like, it has to be. But I guess, and maybe there is, but who knows. But it's such a good title. Just the title alone. And then, basically, it's Die Hard, but Santa is John McClane, and it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. And so I was a sucker from the moment I saw the trailer, and I thought the movie actually elevated what I expected, because I really liked the character of Santa a lot, and I really liked his sort of disaffected sort of coming around to Christmas again, but through violence. I don't know. It was fun. It was a good time. Like learning about the magic of Christmas by killing a bunch of terrorists. It was stupid, and I loved it. So I'm excited they're bringing it back. Bill Pullman and Rick Moranis are set to reprise their respective roles as Lone Star and Dark Helmet in the new Spaceballs movie for Amazon MGM Studios, with Keke Palmer and Louis Pullman also joining the cast. The original film's director and star, Mel Brooks, who will turn 99 this month, will also feature in the cast once again, reprising his role as Yogurt. The film is currently set to release in 2027.
Scotty, when it comes to Spaceballs, there are other Mel Brooks movies that I enjoy more, like Blazing Saddles certainly comes to mind, but I have a healthy respect for Spaceballs, and having seen it at least a couple of times, I do remember that at the end of that movie, they said if they were ever going to make a sequel, it would have to be called Spaceballs 2, The Quest for More Money. So I imagine that the reveal of that subtitle is just around the corner here, but I don't know if anybody had the opportunity. They put out a crawl. It wasn't like a trailer, but kind of like a teaser, but they put out this crawl for Spaceballs 2, and it was hilarious. It references how there have been all these Star Wars trilogies, all the spin-off shows. They even, dig at the DCU, that the fact that we've had 2 starts to the DCU, and they make fun of Marvel too. They say we're 36 movies into Marvel. So just as a contributor to this show and a fan of this network and all of this content, I was like, even if you're not a big Spaceballs person, it seems like this is going to be not just making fun of Star Wars and lampooning Star Wars, but kind of the whole sci-fi fantasy genre as what it's become at this point in time. And I think that increased my excitement for it quite a bit. And the fact that, Rick Moranis is coming out of retirement, that's
right.
That's epic.
Yeah. He was, I'll throw the rebuttal in for this, that he was offered every single Ghostbusters reboot. Like anytime they've done a Ghostbusters reboot, they've tried to get Rick Moranis to come back. Even the last one brought back everybody but him. into the fold. But if you know anything about his story, he essentially quit acting to raise his family. His wife passed away, and he's turned down pretty much every opportunity to come back into the spotlight and to act. And so this is a huge get. Like that, to bring him back cannot be understated. Like how big of a deal that is for a guy that was really a fixture in a lot of core movies, from like Spaceballs to like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids to all this type of stuff. To get him back is huge. I also want to point out that Lewis Pullman and Bill Pullman, that's his father. Like he's going to be returning to the screen together. Like that's really cool to get them back together. And then Scotty, like you said, like that's what stood out the most to me is like, can we make a movie making fun of Star Wars today in 2025? Like it probably doesn't work like it did back then, because back then it made sense like for what Star Wars was, and what Star Wars is now is much different, and it's not at the height that it was then when Spaceballs was made. It's something different now. So instead, in the crawl, they're taking aim at just like the franchise model in Hollywood in general, which can be done very well. Like the Studio comes to mind, like the Apple TV series The Studio. I just finished it up. It's hysterical, and it talks a lot, and it really gets in like hilarious commentary on franchises. And I think something like that, like if you're telling me that that's kind of the route that this movie can take, I'm way more interested in it. So I think it'll be a really interesting thing. I'm wondering though, like, will it be in theaters or will it be in Amazon Prime? Like, what are we looking at here in terms of release? I think that'll be an interesting conversation. But yeah, I'm interested in it for sure.
I'll just toss out there that it'll be a very missed opportunity if they don't have a baby version of yogurt named Gogurt.
Good call.
It's great. I loved that crawl too. I'll also use my rebuttal here fully. I loved that crawl as well. And the use of I was like reading it, and there were certain franchises I was like, well, they haven't mentioned that yet, and then they got to it. Like they got to so many franchises. Almost everything we talk about on this network, they were like, there have been 15 of this, and 4 of this, and 6 of this. It was so good. But there's only been one Spaceballs, and now it's time to return, and I just think it's so exciting. And like the Lewis Pullman connection is really cool. I think it's likely, this is Bill Pullman played kind of the Han Solo character, so I think it's very likely we'll get like a Kylo Ren type character out of Lewis Pullman, like a dark side light side thing going on. I think all of that sounds super fun. We have seen Star Wars lampooned a million times, so yeah, it by itself is not the thing, but I think that Mel Brooks can bring something really special here. And there's just a lot of fans who grew up watching Spaceballs, like who love that movie. It's not just a Star Wars ripoff or a Star Wars parody. It's also like got its own fans. Like people cosplay as these characters, and so returning to the Schwartz or whatever and doing the Pizza the Hut and yogurt and all this, it's going to be fun. I'm really, really excited. So, yeah, I'm pumped for this. Really, really pumped. All right. On the animation side of DC Studios, Warner Brothers announced a new series called Mr. Miracle, based on a comic series written by renowned writer Tom King, who will also be the showrunner. Mr. Miracle is an escape artist character who is a celebrity in the comic book world he lives in.
Scotty, as a fan of both animation and DC, this one really excites me because Mr. Miracle is a character that I am somewhat familiar with, but my cursory familiarity tells me that, like, okay, now we're getting sweaty. Now we're getting deep cut. We're going for Mr. Miracle, who is a member of the New Gods. And I find it particularly interesting that Tom King is the writer here, because I went back and I was like, okay, back in the days of the DC EU, we were going to get a New Gods film, and it was going to be directed by Ava DuVernay, and Tom King was going to write it alongside her. So Tom King has just been like, the driving force for the New Gods. So I that commitment to the property and that dedication to it alone, I think speaks volumes, and again, increases my excitement here. But as far as who Mr. Miracle is, like he's described as an escape artist here, but as far as his lineage within the New Gods go, he actually he's got a really interesting story. He was born to the New Gods, but actually like grows up on Apocalypse, like with Darkseid as like his father figure. He's like It's kind of like that season of Fargo where they trade kids as like a brokering of the peace here, and now he does eventually go back to become, a member of the New Gods and has a romance with Big Barda. And thinking about animation from DC, we've seen a lot of different takes on, what adult animation looks like for them. But I think this will probably skew towards the Harley Quinn, Kite Man, maybe not quite as vulgar and irreverent as those, but probably in keeping with those. So definitely looking forward to learning more about it and getting some kind of trailer and release date.
Mm-hmm. All right. Paramount Plus has renewed Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the series, for a 5th and final 6-episode season. Production on the upcoming season will begin later this year. Matt, this is bittersweet because this is, yes, they're renewing it for a 5th and final season, which means they're also canceling it. And we got a lot of run time left on this show, so I can't get sad yet. They're about to debut season 3. They've already filmed season 4, or they are filming it currently, and they're going to start filming this 5th season later this year. So we've got 2.5 seasons basically left, and it being streaming, that last 6-episode season may be long episodes, so there's a lot of Strange New Worlds coming. I'm not too sad, but this is kind of the in my mind, one of the best things Star Trek has going for it right now. It's been a really, really great show that has kind of recaptured a certain kind of Star Trek love that has been missing, the sort of episodic, kitschy fun, while still mixing in enough really intense, really deep episodes that really went some dark places and stuff. So like it's been a really cool Star Trek to have around after nothing but sort of overarching plots for the last few years in Star Trek. So having something that's just like, hey, these are fun little adventures every week has been really cool. So I'm sad to see it go, but I'm glad we got 2.5 seasons left. And I'm glad they're giving them a 6-episode season to wrap it up, because we talked about it on the Star Trek Universe podcast this week when this was announced, and it's like Star Trek Discovery recently, they found out they were getting canceled, and they gave them like 20 minutes to tack on to the end of the last episode to try to wrap things up. And I was like, let's do a flash forward and we say where everyone ends up. And so it was just very, tacked on, as it were. And this, at least, they've got some run time, they've got time to write, they've got time to make 6 full episodes to close out the series. So all of that makes me excited. Pixar Animation Studios offered an exclusive look at its upcoming features, including Hoppers and Toy Story 5, and announced a brand new original production, Gato, during a studio presentation on Friday at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival as part of a broader showcase that also includes extensive footage from Pixar's 2025 release, Elio. Gato, which will be directed by Luca filmmaker Enrico Casarosa, follows Nero, a water-hating black cat living in the picturesque city of Venice, Italy, who befriends Maya, a lonely street musician.
Reed. I'm so late to so many movies. I just saw most of Luca the other day for the first time. And I love the art of that film. I love the depiction of Italy through that film, especially having gone to that area, and it just like it brought back so many memories, and it captured like the area wonderfully. This new original tale with Gato, and the idea of using a kind of not fully 2D, but this hand painted style for the film has me very interested and very excited to see what they do, and really just hoping to see Pixar on this big rebound tour. Toy Story 5, I hope, will be a major improvement off of 4, which I did enjoy. I really did like 4. It just didn't match where Toy Story 3 left off. I thought that was a perfect ending and didn't necessarily need more. To see more of those characters in 5 will be fun. And, the news about Incredibles 3 is a little promising. And Hoppers, it's a very interesting plot. That's a wild plot to throw out there of a girl being able to switch her brain into a robot beaver and befriending the beaver clan. It gives me weird sci-fi-ish over the hedge vibes from what I'm hearing about it. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like, and just more of this whole Pixar slate. And what I guess maybe will be maybe we'll get an Italian trilogy of Pixar films after Gato.
Sure. The Cornetto trilogy, but by way of Italian Pixar films instead of Edgar Wright. I'm glad you went first. I will use my rebuttal to chime in on this one. I'm glad you went first because I have not seen Luca, and I don't know why.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
There are multiple times I've thought about it when I have a little time to kill. I'm like, I should finally get around to Luca, but I always, for whatever reason, prioritize other films. But this will make me get around to seeing it. But you mentioned the 2D painterly brushstroke style that's going to be used for Gato here, but I hear that and I'm excited for this film. But the influence from last year's Oscar winner Flow immediately came to mind for me, and that was a film that was created entirely in Blender. It features a black cat who is encountering rising waters that has to go on a journey to learn how to not be so lonely. So I find it interesting. I'm sure they'll do something different, something inspired, but the influence is pretty obvious to me. Now, I did want to touch on Toy Story 5 a little bit because it got brought up when we were talking features and stuff like that. But I wanted to talk about the villain because it's something that we've heard about from the earliest days of this film when they were first starting to develop it, that it was going to kind of be addressing the fact that kids spend so much time looking at screens these days rather than playing with toys and traditional toys, what have you. So apparently the villain is going to be what's called a lily pad, which I'm old enough to remember leapfrogs and stuff like that. So I think that is inherently interesting. And I just thought back in my Rolodex of Toy Story villains. I think they've only had 2 human villains, and the rest of them have been other toys that they're warring against. So that's just what are we saying about the toys in Toy Story? I don't know. It's interesting.
I think I think they're cooking with that idea though, the idea of the villain being some type of a device. And man, there's some big cultural statements that you can make with a film like that, which Toy Story has never shied away from. I was already interested in that, but I think that's a really, really fascinating idea to explore.
Yeah, me too. Glenn Close and Billy Porter have joined the cast of Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping. Close will play Drusilla Sickle, the cruel escort to the District 12 tributes, while Porter snagged the role of Magno Stift, her estranged husband and the tribute's uninspired designer. Today, Jaleel Swabi was also added to the cast as Panache, a career tribute. This was added later. I was not told about this one.
I added it an hour ago.
Jaleel Swabi was also added to the cast as Panache, a career tribute from District 1.
Scotty, this next Hunger Games movie has really been adding to its cast. The cast is becoming surprisingly stacked, and I mean this is noteworthy talent that they're adding here. Glenn Close, that's pretty crazy that she's she's done Marvel and stuff like that, so she's not entirely opposed to the franchise thing. But yeah, I just continue to be really impressed with the talent that they're getting for this thing. But I have not read the book that came out this spring, that this movie is going to be based on. But everything that I'm hearing, we know that it's going to be an adaptation of Hamish Abernathy's experience in the Hunger Games. So Hamish was Woody Harrelson's character in the films, who went on to be the coach for Peeta and Katniss there. So everything I've heard, this is going to be a much darker, bleaker story, and that kind of excites me. I mean, everything we've been hearing from these characters, Drusilla Sickle, a cruel escort, and the fact that Billy Porter's character, I think you can look at him and compare him to Kravitz. I can think of Zoe Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz's character, Cinta, in those films, where they were very fortunate to get good coaches and good designers that cared about them and wanted them to have a fighting chance. I think it's going to be really interesting to see kind of the pinnacle of the Hunger Games in terms of the apathy from the other districts and the capital there. So we've seen a lot of Hunger Games, but I do expect this one to be, more of the same, but delivered very differently, which I think will be a great change of pace.
Tiny but the character of Haymitch has always been sort of this character who was scarred by the games. He seems like he's this alcoholic who. So ever since the very first Hunger Games, we've been sort of hinted at the fact that his games were dark. Bad things happened there. And he is scarred by them. So seeing his experience is going to be really interesting, I think.
Yeah, good call.
And a cool tie-in to the first book, I guess. In an interview with Kiss Extra Radio, Will Smith revealed that he was offered the lead role in Christopher Nolan's Inception that was ultimately filled by Leo DiCaprio because he didn't understand the plot, and also turned down the lead role in The Matrix, which was filled by Keanu Reeves.
Reed? This was very funny to see because it completes the holy trinity of Will Smith rejected movies, because it was not only The Matrix there, Inception, but he also turned down Django Unchained when Quentin Tarantino offered that to him, because he didn't.
I thought you were going to say Doctor Strange, and I was going to be like, oh,
that would be an interesting one.
In terms of landscape, mind-bending environments, he missed out.
He turned these movies down because he didn't understand the scripts or like them. He didn't like the Django, that he didn't think that Django was the real hero of the movie. So it was a quick rejection for him. So I don't know who helps Will Smith make these choices. I don't know if it's an agent thing or if it's a purely on him. He really thought Wild Wild West would be better than The Matrix. And, I don't know. It's a very curious what if we have, Jay Scotty's Watcher narrating this alternate timeline where Will Smith is starring in these other films and could potentially make his career even bigger. But, you missed out. I'm trying to picture him in Inception, and I really can't.
Yeah. Be very different.
Yeah.
Him in The Matrix, too. Very, very different movies.
I'm going to learn Kung Fu.
I know Kung Fu, yeah. Variety has confirmed a fourth Harold and Kumar film is in the works. The original first film writers, John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg, are set to direct the new installment, which they will also write with Josh Heald. John Cho and Cal Penn are expected to return, but no deals have been finalized.
Scotty, I am surprisingly down for this. A lot of times when it comes to, revitalizing these bygone trilogies and franchises, I'm just I see it for what it is. It's the cash grab. But in the case of the Harold and Kumar films, every single one was different. They never did they kind of did the same thing in terms of them just being on a wild misadventure, but the stakes and the scenario and the setup was always vastly different. Their third film was a holiday, Christmas film. So I'm down for it. The fact that everybody involved is down to come back, and I've heard that John Cho and Cal Penn have both voiced their willingness and excitement to return to these roles. I think, that sounds like a perfect storm. Hopefully it's not a situation where you have just a bunch of yes men, hyping each other up, and there's no, outside perspective or anybody to kind of check some wild ideas or something like that. But this is, like I said, usually with these films, the bigger you go, the funnier it ends up being. So I'm on board for it. We'll see.
Tom Cruise, Debbie Allen, and Wynn Thomas will receive honorary Oscar awards, while Dolly Parton will be honored with the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award. All four Oscars will be presented at the 16th Governors Awards on November 16th at the Ray Dolby Ballroom, Ovation Hollywood.
Reed, this is pretty. I'm a little surprised because I thought there was still, a little bit of time for Tom Cruise to win his own before getting an honorary Oscar, but I honestly very well deserved for him. And same goes for Debbie Allen, absolutely incredible choreographer throughout so many different musicals and any dance scenes from, films from the 80s and on, and great television director as well. And Wen Thomas, who is a production designer, did great work, especially with Spike Lee and She's Gotta Have It. So this is should be very fun. Obviously, Tom Cruise is going to be the big, the big headliner of this, and he can finally call himself Academy Award winner Tom Cruise here. But I don't. Do you really call it a win when you're giving it as like an honor? I don't know. It's still yours.
Yeah, he'll be honored either way.
No matter what. Yeah.
I just want to throw out Dolly Parton get the humanitarian award is pretty cool too.
That's a great one. Yes.
Dolly Parton. She's a queen, man.
Yeah.
Listen, the book thing, just as a side note, if you are listening and you have young children, the book thing that you may have heard about with Dolly Parton is not a gimmick. If you sign up for her Imagination Library, it's a nonprofit that she runs, where if you sign up a child who is just born, they will send you a book in the mail every month until that child reaches 5 years old. And the books are not just they are high quality. They're very choosy about the authors. There's always a personal blurb from Dolly at the beginning of every single one. It is a legit thing that you're signing up for. So I speak as a father who had a child, had his kids enrolled in that program, and it's legit and it's amazing. Yeah. For a lot of people who don't have access to books, having a book show up in your mailbox every month, encouraging literacy and reading and stuff. She's an amazing person.
That's beautiful.
She also during COVID did some big things. I'm forgetting she helped finance some of the work that was being done then, and she also when there's disasters in the Southeast in her area, she's always really giving to her area, really trying to help people. And it actually teared up hearing you talk about that book thing. I think it's so cool. Ugh,
all these years later, she's still sticking it to Jolene.
That's right. This is what this is all about.
I'm sorry to be disingenuous. She's clearly a very awesome person, and it's rare in Hollywood that you get somebody who puts the action behind the words, but she clearly does. So yeah. Love to see it.
For those of you who have never might be interested, there's a podcast called Dolly Parton's America, I believe, and it was a podcaster I really liked, who I think did Radiolab, and weirdly, his dad's doctor was Dolly Parton's doctor, he found out. And Dolly doesn't do a lot of interviews, but because of the personal connection, he was able to convince his dad to convince the doctor to talk to this weird thing, and ended up getting Dolly to do these long sit-down interviews for this podcast, and then did a ton of interviews on top of that, with other people and going to her home and stuff. It's really great podcast, just talking about she's this weird confluence of some of the most different and opposed people in our nation right now love her. She's a beloved figure by some of the most conservative people love Dolly Parton, and some of the most out and proud LGBTQ people, she's an icon for them. It's this very strange thing. Her concerts are this weird confluence of completely different people culturally, but they all love Dolly, and it's just a really strange thing.
It's supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, not necessarily supposed to, but hopefully it can.
One of the things it can do for sure.
Yeah.
Netflix is in the first stages of development on a reboot of the 1970s series Land of the Lost. Legendary Television and Sid and Marty Krofft Productions, which produced the original show, are behind the new project. Matt, this reminds me a little bit of a few years ago we had the reboot of Lost in Space. This reminds me of that, and I think that turned out great. It was really wonderful, and it turned out really well. Also, Legendary does the help me out. Who does? Do they do the Kong?
They do.
They do. Well, I thought that was the case. Isn't the inner Kong world basically Land of the Lost? Isn't that kind of the same thing?
Yeah, basically.
The Hollow Earth thing? Couldn't they kind of smush those together and make... They've already done the that Monsters...
Apple. Yeah, Apple did the Monsters movie. Yeah.
Right, they did the TV show
Monsters.
Legacy of Monsters. Yeah. And so I kind of wonder if they could like pull a backdoor, like this is all the same world thing, and make that world even bigger. But either way, I'd be down for this because Netflix did a really good job with that Lost in Space a few years ago. So I although this is probably a silly idea, Land of the Lost, I liked the reboot in the 90s too. So I'd probably enjoy this reboot too.
Is it a Little House on the Prairie too? So they're just going back to all the classics.
Interesting.
Is it a fever dream of mine that there was a Land of the Lost movie with Will Ferrell and Danny McBride?
There was.
There was.
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
There was.
I want to say it was 2011.
My brain all of a sudden was just like do 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 do, like you booted up a section of my brain that has not come on in I don't know how long.
Long dead neurons just sparked to life.
Yeah, that movie's from 2009, so it's like it's been so long since I've thought about that.
Every 10 years, we got to get a Land of the Lost reboot. Emerges from the earth. It's like it again. It's another cicada situation. Nakoa Wolf Momoa and Silo's Ida Brooke have joined the cast of Dune 3. The pair are set to play Leto II and Ghanima, the twin children of Paul Atreides.
Scotty. So just going off of the characters that have been named here, those of us that are familiar with the plot of the third Dune book, this sounds like they're going to be very faithful, and this should be no surprise. These characters are very integral to the plot of that novel there. Now, Nakoa Wolf Momoa, I mean, clearly some relation to Jason Momoa, but off the top of my head, I don't know. So hopefully somebody can educate me. I don't know if it's one of his sons or daughters or what
have you. There's a picture
but
with them hugging. It's son.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Son. And then I figured it had to be a son since it's a sister and a brother here, because I do know Ida Brooke from Silo. She played the younger version of one of the characters that really steps up and has a lot more to do in season 2. So she's only in the one episode from Silo, but that is a show that I don't think there was a single weak link across any episode in the 2 seasons. So, and I just really trust this team that has done the first 2 Dune films and is coming back together to do this third one. I think they're going to do it right.
Paul Atreides is the main character from the first Dune movie, right?
Yeah, it's Timothée Chalamet's character.
Timothée Chalamet's character. It's interesting because I mean, obviously these movies will advance in time, but it's interesting to me that he'll have like teenage children by the third one. That seems like a lot of time will pass. All right. Recent comments from Pirates of the Caribbean producer Jerry Bruckheimer and star Orlando Bloom suggest the 6th film would see many of the original cast return, but not all.
Scotty, it's been a while since we've talked about Pirates of the Caribbean, and I believe the last time we were talking about it was again when Jerry Bruckheimer was kind of spouting off a little bit, and he was talking about, I think at that point in time, it was like Margot Robbie was in talks to potentially be attached to a reboot or a soft reboot for the franchise. But Orlando Bloom's comments particularly kind of stuck out to me. He said, it feels like it's time to get the band back together. And, when we refer to many of the original cast returning, but not all, I think it's pretty obvious that we're probably talking about Johnny Depp there with everything that he's gone through. Jack Sparrow is iconic and synonymous with Pirates of the Caribbean, but for my purposes, that would be one of the criticisms that I would levy towards Pirates of the Caribbean. He was a great
side character in that first film, and he worked really well against a straight man like Orlando Bloom's William Turner.
Yep.
So as much as I like Jack Sparrow, I think maybe taking him out of the equation could help this franchise get back to a place that has something substantial to offer, rather than just being the Johnny Depp show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he has a classic problem of being a great side character to fill out the world, but when you put him in the main seat, his chaos and everything makes it hard to pin an entire plot on him because his goals are always so strange.
Yeah, the Mater and Cars 2 situation. Yeah, you can't don't ever go full Mater.
You never go full mater. Yeah, that's like the classic example there, Reed. Thank you. All right. Well, that's the show. That's the show this week. Reed Murphy, tell the people where they can find you online, what you got going on.
Yes, please go to the 323 Network on YouTube. Pretty much at 323Reed, at 323REID on all social media, YouTube/323Reed. Yeah, we got plenty going on. We're doing what we're calling our OTAs, our mini camps right now, as we're doing different little shows to prep, doing our potlucks and having different little topics come on during all the sports off season, talking anything else that's coming to mind right now in entertainment and politics, anything. So anything you need, anything you want, come check us out on the 323 Network, and we got it for you.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for being here, my friend. Always a bright light to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Always so happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, man. And Jay Sisson, what you got going on, man?
Check out Commute the Podcast. We're just putting out episodes on Monday morning, so if you haven't subscribed over there, please do that. And then, side note, if you don't follow our show, Multiverse News, on social media, we're out there on Twitter at MV Newscast. We're on Instagram at Multiverse Newscast. We've got TikTok. We're on the Stranded Panda YouTube kind of presence, too, if you don't subscribe over there. So go find our show on social media and interact with it if that's something you haven't done yet.
Absolutely. And J. Scotty St. Clair.
Nothing particular to plug today, so I will just plug the Stranded Panda Network and all of the shows on that network. Give them all some love and some support. And if you've already written a review for those shows, or left your 5 stars or whatever, consider sharing this show or any of those other shows with somebody that may find it interesting. That's how our shows grow. So we would definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great call. Yeah, it's weird. We don't have any big things on Always Watching right now. At least the three of us don't. And so it's weird to only have like a couple shows going on right now per week. So it's the summer. I guess it's kind of chill time. But like everybody said, share the show, subscribe, check out Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. I'm over there every week. So and we've got a lot coming with Ironheart coming out next week. So we'll be back here on Multiverse News very soon. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.
Dang it. You made me forget, Jay, about making you eat a pepper.
That happened exactly like you thought. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Next time. Hey, thanks for listening to Multiverse News, or watching it, or whatever you're doing. Eyeballs or ear holes, whichever thing. We do this show every week, and we appreciate you listening. StrandedPanda.com is where you can find all of our podcasts. And thank you for listening. Check us out wherever you get podcasts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon, whatever you have on whatever service you're doing. Rate us, like us. We're really thirsty. That's what I'm saying.